Hello and welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And more importantly, give you the confidence that comes from being able to decode what people are truly saying around you through learning some tips and hacks on how to do that. This episode, we're going to look at Steven Avery and ask, is he innocent or is he guilty? Steven, you may know, is the centrepiece of the Netflix documentary Making a Murderer. His story has popped up again recently with attorneys filing motions in court, and it's really got to that messy stage now where it's less about did he murder the Teresa Halbach, or is this all about process and evidence and so on? So let's go back to the very beginning. Teresa Halbach went missing on October the 31st, 2005. Her last appointment was with Steven Avery. Local TV interviewed Steven on November the 4th, and it's that interview that we're going to analyse now, including why he says this.
And that's about it. That was about it. That's about it.
That's about it. Should we pay attention to that? As always, I want you to listen along and analyse along. So here's things I think you should be looking for. The tense that he uses. Is he talking in the present tense when we would expect present tense? Is he talking in the past tense when we would expect past tense? Or does he mix his tenses around? Always a key one when a person of interest is talking about a missing person. Look out for generalizations. Is he talking about the specific incidents that are under discussion, or is he just talking in general terms and in conceptual terms? And minimizers. Is he trying to downplay things? Is he trying to make things seem small and insignificant when the reality is they're anything but? Let's go to question one.
Okay. So my first question to you is, how did you know Teresa?
Well, Teresa used to come out with here all the time, take pictures of my vehicles, and to put them in the book.
Okay, so how long have you known her?
I've been using the book for a year, a little over a year maybe, somewhere in there.
And when she came out here, was she all business? What was your personality like?
Same thing every time. Hi, how you doing? Mostly that. And say about 5 minutes and out she goes again.
So the first question was, my first question to you is, how did you know Teresa? And Avery's reply is, Teresa used to come out here all the time, take pictures of my vehicles, and she put them in the book. Regulars will know that I like to see if someone answers directly the question they have been asked. And here the question is, how did you know Teresa? And he answers the question because he says, Teresa used to come out here all the time and take pictures of my vehicles. So he does directly answer that question. So that's reassuring. Less reassuring is that he uses the past tense to refer to Teresa. Question one, and I've got a huge red flag. Teresa used to come out here all the time. So unless he's fired her, unless their last interaction was him firing her, he knows that she's not coming back to do pictures for him again. Teresa used to come out here all the time. He also puts take pictures of my vehicles in the past tense, and she put them in the book is in the past tense. So he could have said, Teresa comes here all the time to take pictures of my vehicles and she puts them in the book, but he used the past tense to refer to Teresa. That is a huge red flag. Also, Teresa used to come out here all the time. So he's saying that there was a regular relationship, a very often relationship, that Teresa used to come there all the time. The next question that he is asked is, okay, so how long have you known her? And he says, I've been using the book for a year, a little over a year, maybe somewhere there. Did he answer that question? He doesn't answer that question. He's asked how long he has known her, and his reply is that I have been using the book for a year, a little over a year. He doesn't mention Teresa at all. He's asked how long have you known her, and what he says is how long he has been using the book, Auto Trader, where he was placing cars for sale. I've been using the book for a year, a little over a year. So he doesn't answer the question. He doesn't mention Teresa once. Next, he's asked, and when she came out, was she all business? What was her personality like? And his reply is, same thing, every time, hi, how you doing? Mostly that, and would stay about 5 minutes and out she goes again. So he's asked, Was she all business? What was her personality like? And he doesn't answer this question. He doesn't talk about the interaction between them. So there's a pattern here. He was asked how long that he knew her and he didn't mention her. And here he doesn't talk about her personality. He says same thing every time. So he was asked when she came out, was she all business? So he's asked about her visit on the day that she disappeared. And he says same thing every time. So he's talking in generals here. He's talking about what happened every time she came. He's avoiding talking directly about that specific day where she disappeared when she came to see him. And she would stay about 5 minutes. Again, that is talking about in general. She would stay about 5 minutes. It's not on that day she stayed about 5 minutes and off she went again. So yeah, really interesting. And focus in on this same thing every time. He does that a lot here. He wants to say how normal visits from Teresa to him were, but he doesn't talk about that specific visit a lot. By the way, I've said it before, there is no marketing budget for Never a Truer Word, so this is where you step up, because something like this takes a good few hours to put together. So if you could see it in your heart to spread the word by sharing with people that are interested in words and linguistics, or maybe sharing with people that are interested in Making a Murderer and Steven Avery, that would be fantastic. Always interested in your comments as well. You can leave them on this platform if you like, or you can get in touch in social media. You'll find all the links in the show description. Subscribe if you want to get more like this, more episodes like this whenever they come out. But the least you can do is join the marketing team and press the like button or the plus button, whatever you can see. And that means this gets out to more people and spreads the word, because you're the marketing team. And if you're on side, just hit that like button. Thank you.
So how did you first hear that she disappeared?
When the cops came up by the house by my mom and dad, then they asked me if she was out here and that, and I said yeah. And then they asked me what time. Around 2:30. That's what she mostly comes out. 2:30. Sometimes it was 3 o'clock.
And then when she left, which direction was she going? I mean, did she seem fine? Did she seem agitated?
Same thing, normal. Well, then she went out to the road and, she goes to LRB. I don't know where she goes, after that, because the field's all open, you can see. So
which direction was she going in?
Towards LRB.
So the first question asked there is, so how did you first hear that she disappeared? Avery's reply is, when the cops came up by house, by my mom and dad, and they asked me if she was out here, and then then they asked me what time, around 2:30. That's what she mostly comes out, 2:30 sometimes. There was one time, was it 3 o'clock? So does he answer the question? I think he does answer the question, because the question is, so how did you first hear that she disappeared? And he doesn't say how, he tells us when, but he does say is when the cops came up by my mom and dad. Okay, so he does answer the question, but he answers the question and then a hell of a lot more and gives information that he wasn't asked for. That must be information that is important for him to say. So he goes on to talk about the questions that the police asked him, if she was out here and what time she was out here. So he does answer the question, but then he goes on to say a hell of a lot more. Once again, he doesn't talk about the specific incident. He tells us that's when she mostly comes, 2:30. Sometimes there was one time at 3 o'clock. So in his telling of this, the cop said, what time was she here? And he can't say it was 2 or it was 2:30. He talks to us, certainly, about what time she mostly comes. Now, this is so prevalent in what he's saying, I think it's time to raise a big possibility. And that's that the meeting that he had with her on October the 31st was so exceptional that he feels he has to tell a cover story, and he's going to base that cover story on what normally happened when Teresa came to see Steven, what usually happened when Teresa came to see Steven. And that's what he's doing here, because he does not say, again, a specific about the event. He tells us in general about every event. I think we've got some distancing going on here as well. He says the cops, they asked me if she was out here. I think it's if she came here, I think is what he was going to say, and bail out. I'm not 100% sure, so I could be wrong here, but I think it was they asked me if she was out here, came, and he's taken away she came and just said was out here. So I think that is him doing some distancing. He was going to say something, thought better of it, and said it in a more distant way. And in this answer, he says the cops came up by house by my mom and dad. Right, so this is the first mention Steven makes of houses and homes, but he's going to make many all the way through this interview. That's going to interest me, as I'll explain at the very end, but this is the first time that he mentions house. The interviewer then went on to say, and then when she left, which direction was she going in? I mean, did she seem fine? Did she seem agitated? His reply is, same thing, normal. But then she went out to the road and, she goes to Larrabee. I don't know where she goes, after that because the field's all open. You can see it. So, right. You got it? Same thing, normal. He's really, really, really prioritizing that this was a normal visit, that nothing unusual happened. And he wasn't asked, was everything normal? He was asked which direction she went in and did she seem fine? Did she seem agitated? And he does not say that she seemed fine or she didn't seem agitated or even, there was something up with her. She was distracted or she was crying or he doesn't say anything like that. He doesn't deal with that question. He just says it's the same thing, normal. He's talking in the present tense about what happened when she left. She goes to Larrabee. I don't know where she goes. But the field's all open. Now, two things. I want you to remember that he said he has watched her drive off to Larrabee. He hasn't actually said that. Well, he says she went out on the road and she goes to Larrabee. She goes to Larrabee. So, but he has said or wanted to give the impression that he has seen her go. But he doesn't say she went to Larrabee. I don't know where she goes or anything like that. This is in the present tense, which is interesting. It's a past event. It's in the present tense and it's all still in general. And then he says, he's asked, so which direction was she going in? And he says, towards Larrabee. It's the shortest answer he gives in the entire interview. And I want you to remember again that he said he saw her drive away in the direction of Larrabee.
Did she mention any other appointments that day or anything like that?
No, I don't think so. Because most of the time she takes a picture, then she runs down the sewer number. Then she comes and collects the money and that's about it.
So the question there was, did she mention any other appointments that day or anything like that? He says, nah, I don't think so, because most times she takes a picture, then she writes down the serial number, and then she comes and collects the money, and that's about it. So once again, we have, I slipped up there and said once upon a time, but this is starting to feel like a fairy tale because once more he is saying most times she takes a picture, writes down the serial number, collects the money, and that's about it. Once more, he does not talk about this specific visit that Teresa made. The last time she was seen alive, and he has given us very, very few specifics about what happened on that specific visit. Just talks about what happens most times here. And he finishes his answer with, that's about it, which literally means there was more. More happened. And by the way, he's talking in general here. So it's not that's about it, as in that's all that happened that day. There is something else he is hiding there between his interactions with Teresa. If you'll notice as well that he has talked a lot about what happens in general when Teresa comes to take pictures of his cars. It's all about what Teresa does. She says hi, she takes pictures, she collects money, she writes down serial numbers. There is nothing, not one thing he has said about himself in any of the visits that Teresa made, including the one in question.
So what kinds of questions were police asking you?
This one, she was out here, what time, around. That was about it.
Did they ask you to take a polygraph or anything like that?
No. Well, tonight, the cops come and they asked me if I remember anything. And I told them no. And then they asked me if they can come in the house and check the house over. I said, I got no problem with that. Come on in. So they checked the house all over. Everything was fine and they left.
The first part he's asked there, so what kind of questions were the police asking you? And he says, just when she was out here, what time around, and that's about it. Just is the first word of his answer. He's minimizing here. Just is used to minimize, make things seem really small and trivial. Well, why would you make things seem really small and trivial? The police are searching for a missing woman. So why is he wanting to turn that down? I get it. What he's doing is trying to say, I'm not a suspect. They were just asking procedural questions. But he says, just when she was out here, what time around? And that's about it. So he's leaking there that the police did ask more questions and that he's not telling us what those questions are. He's just saying, that's about it. That's about it literally means that's not all. There was more to it. And I'm not telling you what that more was. Next, he's asked, did they ask you to take a polygraph or anything like that? He says, no. Tonight, the cops come and ask me if I remember anything, and I told them no. And they asked me if they can come in the house and check the house over. I said, there's no problem with that. Come on in. So they checked the house all over. Everything was fine, and they left. So, does he answer the question? He does, and then he gives us a whole lot more. So he's asked, did they ask you to take a polygraph or anything like that? And he says, no. He doesn't say, no, they didn't ask me to take a polygraph, by the way, which would be a full answer to the question. He says no twice. And then he tells us a whole lot more about what the cops did that all shows him in a good light. So it's important to him to get across to us that the cops came and asked if I remember anything. And I don't. And they wanted to come in the house. And I was like, of course you can come in the house, because the impression he wants to give is I've nothing to hide. Come on in. And they checked the house and everything was fine and they left. He wasn't asked any of that information. It's very important for him to get across to the interviewer and to us that, hey, look, I'm working with the cops. I can't remember anything. The house has been checked and everything's fine. We've got some signs of and so storytelling. That's when someone says, and this happened, so this happened, which is usually fictional, or at least it's someone explaining a story rather than just telling events. And this happened, so this happened. They're giving us reasons for things rather than just telling us about events. Look how often he mentions house here. They asked me if they can come in the house and check the house over. So they checked the house over. 3 times he's mentioned his house. It's high in his priorities, his house. It's very high in his priorities.
If they asked you to take a polygraph, would you? Would you not? And why?
Well, I got nothing to hide. They want me to, but I don't care. I'm just at home, work up there all day. I barely go anywhere. Once in a while I go to Manitowoc and come back. That's about it.
Steven Avery is asked, if they asked you to take a polygraph, would you? Would you not? And his reply is, I got nothing to hide. If they want me to, I don't care. I'm just at home. Work up there all day. I barely go anywhere. Once in a while I go to Manitowoc and come back. That's about it. He doesn't say yes. He doesn't say no. He's asked, if they asked you to take a polygraph, would you? Would you not? He tells us he don't got nothing to hide. If they want me to, I don't care. But he doesn't say he will. You might listen to that and get the impression he's willing to take a polygraph test because he said he's got nothing to hide. And if they want, I don't care. But he doesn't say, yeah, I'll take a polygraph test. Of course. Interesting. Why doesn't he do that? We get a resume statement from him here. How can I possibly be a murderer? Listen to the quiet life that I live. I'm just at home. I work up there all day. I barely go anywhere. Once in a while, I go to Manitowoc and come back. So he's given us a resume statement. This is, look how innocent I am. I am just a grafter. By the way, I'm just at home. The word just appears again. So he's minimizing what he does. He mentions home once more. Not saying I work all day and I barely go anywhere. He has to tell us that he is at home. And our old friend from Steven Avery, that's about it. So despite him trying his very best to get across what a quiet and virtuous life he lives, he barely goes anywhere. He's at home or he's working. He says that's about it. Once more, that means there is more to it, and I'm not going to tell you what that more is. On talking about taking the polygraph, he states things in the negative. So we've already said he doesn't say, yeah, I'll take a polygraph. And he's got 2 negative statements here. I got nothing to hide and I don't care. When someone states things in the negative, that shows where their focus is. That shows really what they are thinking of. And here it is, don't care. I think he does care. Look, even if the story that he says is true, that he's nothing to do with this, he should care. You know, people are looking at you and thinking, did you murder this person? I need you to take a polygraph test. You should care. So he does care. And I got nothing to hide. So he is focused on the fact that something is being hidden here. I think that's what his words suggest.
So when you heard about it, how did you feel?
It's too close to home, something happening. It's not good. Everybody locks their doors now around here. It's pretty bad when something happens around here. I can see somewhere else, but this is too close to home. And you get a little worried, and you know, your family.
The question is put to him, so when you heard about it, how did you feel? And his reply is, it's too close to home, something happening. It's not good. Everybody locks their doors now around here. It's pretty bad when something happens around here. I can see somewhere else, but this is too close to home, and get a little worried, and your family. So directly, Steven Avery has said something has happened. Bear in mind, if he's an innocent person, all he knows is that Teresa is missing. But she could have gone missing of her own accord. She could have decided to do one. She could have had a better life for herself somewhere. She could have been ill. She could have had an accident. Anything like that could have gone on. But he is worried because something happened. And where did that something happen? It happened close to home. It's too close to home. And this is too close to home. So in this answer, Steven Avery does say that to him, in his head, close to home, something happening, and something happens around here, it's too close to home. So this is another one of those huge red flags. As well as talking about her in the past tense, this is pretty much him saying, close to home, something's happened. I want you to remember what he said when he was asked what happened at the end of their interaction. He said she went out into the road and, you know, she goes to Larrabee. I don't know where she goes, you know, after that, because the field's all open. So which direction was she going in? He said towards Larrabee. So he has seen, in his words, Teresa drive away from home, get further to home, away from home. But he says close to home, something's happening. Something happens around here. It's close to home. That is a huge red flag. And once more, 2 times he uses the word home. Home is something he mentions a lot. It's high up in his priorities in his head. Also, this is a bit garbled at the end, but you get a little worried. By the way, just a little worried, not, completely worried. And your family. Family, he's mentioned his mum and dad at least once in this interview, and he's mentioned family here as well. I know the family all live together and close by, but family does seem to be a focus for Steven Avery as well. I'll tell you why I think that is in conclusions.
And it does it, knowing her, what are your feelings for her parents? And
They must be going through hell. I figure my mom and my dad and everybody else, my family, they went through hell when I went did 18 years for something I didn't do. I figured they're going through probably the same thing because they lost somebody or whatever. She's got to be out there somewhere, so somebody should be looking.
The interviewer says, knowing her, what are your feelings for her parents? And Steven Avery says, they must be going through hell. I figure if my mom and dad and everybody else, my family, they went through hell when I did 18 years for something I didn't do. I figured they're going through probably the same thing because they lost somebody or whatever. She's got to be out there somewhere, so somebody should be looking. Once more, a huge red flag. He's saying that Teresa's parents have lost somebody. Remember, at this moment, she's missing. Most people will be hoping, maybe even by this point against hope, that she is going to come back. But Steven Avery says explicitly that they have lost somebody. Really huge red flag. And I think he realizes it because he's talking about what a victim he is and how bad things are for his family rather than the Halbachs. But I think he realizes because he says they lost somebody, pause, or whatever. So I think he's realized, I've given away the fact that they've lost somebody. I think I should say something else here. So I'll say whatever and I'll think about what it is I'm going to say next. And he says, she's got to be out there, so somebody should be somewhere. So somebody should be looking. Now, that is in response to what are your feelings for her parents. And once he makes his mistake and says lost somebody, he starts garbling and saying she's got to be out there somewhere, so somebody should be looking. So I think lost somebody is a huge red flag that he's raised, and he realizes that as well and starts panicking and starts garbling what he is saying. One more thing here is he talks about his family. They went through hell when I went to, stops and restates it, did 18 years for something I didn't do. I think he was going to say go to prison, and that is something that he's like, oh no, that's a bit harsh, so I'm going to put it in a way that's friendlier to me. Did 18 years for something I didn't do.
Does it strike you as weird? I mean, do you think this is kind of odd?
Yeah. But there's stuff happening in the world all over, you know. But this is too close to home for me, you know. And I'm involved. I don't feel good, you know. Then I got all the heat on me again. I did enough time. I learned my lesson. I didn't do nothing wrong. I mostly stay home, mind my own business. Now all of this is happening. Then I find out that she's out here, and now she's missing. I'm wondering the same thing. Where is she? Where'd she go? I know people run away, but there's got to be a reason. So yeah, I'm wondering about all of that too.
The question he's asked first is, does it strike you as weird? I mean, do you think this is kind of odd? And he says, yeah, but there's stuff happening in the world all over, you know, but this is too close to home for me, you know, and I'm involved. I don't feel good, you know, and then I got all the hate on me again. I did enough time. I learned my lesson. I didn't do nothing wrong. So he's asked, is this weird? Is this odd? And he says, well, there's stuff happening in the world all over. So he doesn't really answer the question. He says, yeah, but then he says weird stuff happens all over the world. So he's downplaying what happened. And then he goes back to this theory. This is too close to home for me. Remember, he said he watched her drive off. He has no idea how, in his telling of the story at least, no idea how far she went, where she was going or anything like that. But it has happened too close to home for him. And then he says, I'm involved. Now, I might want to jump all over that and say there's an embedded confession. I'm involved. The meaning I think he has with that is that he was a suspect with the police because of his past, because of the last person to see Teresa alive was him. He's saying, I'm involved. Certainly, it's a truth, no matter which version of events you believe, that he was involved to some point at this time. But it's a data point as well that he is saying, I'm involved. He says, I didn't do nothing wrong. It's a double negative, which is just ways of speaking. I'm not going to slam someone for using a double negative. What I am going to do is say he put this in negative terms again. I didn't do nothing wrong. So I didn't do a nothing wrong. Not I'm in the clear or I'm an innocent man. No, he is I didn't do nothing wrong. So once again, when you talk in the negative, it can show where your focus is. And there, that would be on doing something wrong. Then he gives another one of his resume statements. I mostly stay at home minding my own business. And now all of this is happening. And then I find out she's out here. Now she's missing. You know, I'm wondering the same thing. Where is she? Where's she gone? I know people run away, but there's got to be a reason. So I'm wondering where all of that too. So the resume statement, I mostly stay at home minding my own business, is a repeat of what he said before. And once more, it's mostly. I mostly stay at home. So he does more than just stay at home. He cannot give this truthful, well, he is giving a truthful resume statement, but he wants to give us the impression that he's always at home. He's just mostly at home. Repetition of at home once more. He is fixated on his home. And he says, and then I find out she's out here. Now she's missing. You asked for her. I find out that she's out here. You asked for her to come. You booked her to take a picture of one of your cars. So that's an odd thing to say. You found out she was out here and she's out here. So once again, the location is important to him. And now she's missing. Now, this is a change in tone because he said something's happened He said something's happened that worries him, something's happened that's too close to home, and he said the parents had lost somebody, and then he realised what he said, and then they said, oh, people should be searching, and now, in his words, now she's missing, and people run away all the time, or what he says. And I'm wondering where all that to. When he talks about that, I'm having trouble repeating his words, because when he talks about this running away concept that's in his head, he can't say it clearly. He garbles his words. That's it. That is it from the interview. I think he said about 500 odd words there, and it's raised so many red flags from me. My conclusions. There are multiple indicators that, remember, at the time of the interview, as far as anyone knew, Teresa was missing. No one knew what happened to her, but there are multiple indicators in his words that he knows Teresa is dead. The past tense, something has happened to her, and the parents have lost somebody. Those are huge, huge red flags. There are multiple indicators that events happened in his home or close to it as well. His repetition of home and his repetition of saying this happened too close to home, and he's got a concern for his family. Now, I don't know what that is. I know there was was there another family member involved, or was that let go? I cannot remember, but there's certainly concern for his family. That could be genuine concern about what this is going to do to them, because he's in a lot of trouble, or the concern could be, will other members of his family get called into this? But in that interview, multiple indicators. He knows Teresa is dead, and that the death happened in his home or close to his home. So remember, take away from this, minimizes. I just was doing this. That sort of thing is intended to make things seem small when actually they're large and significant. Generalizations. He didn't speak once about Teresa's specific visit on the day she went missing. He generalized and talked about what happened normally and what usually happened. And as you can see, when we look at tenses, and he talked about Teresa in his very first answer in the past tense, can reveal a lot. If you want to get more episodes like this, the subscribe or follow button will be your friend. If you press that, you will get new episodes as soon as they arrive. I'd love to know your comments. What do you think? Have I changed your mind? Do you think I'm completely wrong? Or have you gone, yeah, that backs up everything I thought? Let me know in the comments, or get in touch on social media if you can. As I said before, the like button, if you got something out of this, would be fantastic. And please, please, please share this in any way you see fit with people who are big fans of Making a Murderer. Maybe you know someone who's got an opposing view from you that you would like to share this with, and get their comments. The more likes, the more shares, the more people get to learn how to understand what people are saying with words and gain confidence from that. So not only will you be doing me a huge favour, you might also be helping out some of your best mates. Go to neveratruerword.com if you want to get more. You can find more podcasts there, more videos there. You can sign up for the newsletters or get in touch on social media. All the social medias are linked there, neveratruerword.com. And we'll see you again soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.